The activity or skill of writing is not for the faint-hearted. It requires patience. Now let's look at business writing. That can take you anywhere from bids, tenders, grants, corporate reports and CVs. It can be about applying for money, competing for projects, developing manuals, creating reports for boards. In fact, business writing covers anything in your business that requires communicating a message or a process or an outcome and hopefully winning new business. Have you often thought about applying for a tender or a grant and hesitated only because you didn't think you could write it? Well, there are specialist business writers for exactly that. Our guest expert today is Karen Perks, Managing Director of Ancient Wisdom Writers. With testimonials like the very best in their field, and if you want to grow your business, Karen is your lady, I'm not surprised they are called Australia's best bid writers. Welcome, Karen.
Thanks, Angela.
Now, I did a lot of research today around writing and business writing, and I discovered 7 other skills that you need other than being able to write. So I wanted to talk about them with you. Now, obviously you would need communication skills.
Absolutely.
Right. You've got to speak to the client, work it all out.
So you've got your written communication skills and your verbal communication skills.
Adaptability.
Every single time.
All the time you're looking at different subjects, different clients, and don't let me forget to ask you about the word client because you use that in a different way. So we're going to come back to that. Discipline. You have to have discipline, surely, to be a business writer.
Yes, because you often, every time work to a deadline.
Yep.
Yep.
Organisational skills.
Deadlines.
Research skills.
Absolutely.
Editing.
Yes, at the end of the process.
This is my personal favourite. You have to have a thick skin. Apparently, that's the top 7.
Yeah, and thick skin is an interesting one because when you write something, you're actually giving that to your customer, your client, and then asking for feedback. It's nearly like turning up to the teacher every single day.
It's very personal, right?
Without the red pen.
Yeah. So someone hires you to write on their behalf.
Yes.
Whether it's for a bid or a tender or a grant or a report, whatever it is, and you're having to take what they say and write it.
So it's an interpretation, so you need to understand their project, that's the first thing, and you need to understand and interpret their goals for what they want, especially in business writing, their goals of what they want their business documents to say. And interpret that. Sometimes you have clients who change their mind halfway through and that's okay.
That's okay.
Because that actually then, it does. It's no different than going into a retail store and changing your mind. It's
a little bit different.
Yeah.
It's not quite returning the shoes. However, in context though, yes, you're a business writer, but you didn't just wake up one day and start work as a business writer. It's your intense business background that actually puts you in the strong position of the business writer. So give us a little bit of background on that, how you started your journey as a business writer but your background goes further back than that in the corporate and sales world.
So bid writing or business writers, it isn't a career that you identify in year 12. It's an evolution. And to be the best in your field, it's an evolution of skills and experiences that you've been exposed to over your whole career. So for me, early career was in the Commonwealth Bank in financial planning, and financial planning, the principles are trust and transparency and understanding the client's needs. Yep. And in bid writing, you actually need to understand not your client, but the provider of the grant or the provider of the business that is procuring the goods, and understanding what their objectives are.
Because that's what you say. You refer to a lot, and that's what I meant by client, because you use the word, you've got to know what the client wants. The client is that you have 2 clients. You work out one client where the bid or the tender or the grant or whatever document where it originated from.
Yes.
And then the client that might be paying you. So you work out what that client actually wants from the grant.
It's always
or the tender or the bid.
It's always who's paying for the grant or needs to have a bridge built or a cleaning services for local council. It's always their objectives that you have to keep in mind. So
you write the right grant or tender or bid proposal the right way.
Yes. If you're not addressing why the government is offering, let's use grants as an example, a grant, and they have social objectives that they want to achieve through the use of the grant, then you're never going, it doesn't matter what your project is. It could be the best project, in a social project in the world, but if you don't meet the clients or the government's social objectives in the grant, then you won't, because it's scored, you won't actually score high, and then you won't be approved. So when you break down the process, it's about understanding how the grant or tender is evaluated, and the questions to the grant, and then making sure that your project is aligned to the two. So with tenders, if the tender is to build a bridge, there's multiple businesses in Australia that can very comfortably build a bridge, but it's about the other things that the government may want to achieve, social outcomes, employment,
the other
industry participation.
The priceless objectives that aren't all necessarily about the money or the actual build of the bridge.
So
or the tunnel.
the project the outcome is to build the bridge, but the surrounding and non-priced outcomes are we employed 1,000 people, and the positive social impacts to that is far outweighs the advantage of being able to get across the river or the harbour.
Right. Because the advantage of government is that they can have those objectives, that it's not just about the bottom dollar, that how government interprets value for money is a different way.
Yes.
We know that. Now, it's important to point out, though, the kind of experience that you've got. So you're experienced in, and you share that with us. I can read it, but you share that with us. You're experienced in different levels of government.
So there's different ways to measure experience. There's experience in the types of tenders and grants. So there's the Commonwealth government grants and government tenders, which are, I suppose, the pinnacle or the hardest out of all the grants and tenders. There's state level grants and tenders. There's local council tenders. There's your philanthropic grants, which is another world in itself. So you've got experience in what you've written, but then you've got to have experience in the type of client. So I have experience in
dealing with them.
Yeah, so my direct client, so corporates, SMEs, startups. There's a whole industry evolving. From COVID, where startups are, which is wonderful in the SME sector.
You've said to me you like working with startups because they've got no documentation,
and you
get to write it all from fresh.
Yes,
their processes, their manuals, their structure. Their policies around different things.
Absolutely. And often there's no hang-ups around, we've always done it this way, or this is how we write this. Well, you may have written it that way, but you actually may not have won much. So there's, and I get a lot of pleasure in helping other businesses.
And you've got a great success rate. Over 80% of the work you do gets a win.
It does. So a win, we measure everything that comes through the business. So except if they're withdrawn by the end client, then they don't count.
Beyond control.
Yes, absolutely.
And you deal with multiple different levels of dollar value on these bids, tenders and grants. So, but your wins have achieved billions of dollars.
So with grants, we measure the amount of grant that is allocated. So we can our clients have won, anything from $10,000 through to, billions in projects.
That's right. So it's all levels of clients that you can deal with and help out with. From small, like 10 to 50,000 in there, right up to millions or billions if necessary. And you've got different industry experience.
So industries are, I think for me, my experience professionally over the last 20 odd years has been across multiple sectors. So you always
the benefit of time.
The benefit, yes. We won't put numbers on anything. So it's great to be able to pull that experience and share it with.
We've got like infrastructure, road, rail, buildings, educational, engineering,
Not-for-profit.
not-for-profit, environmental, waste
Yes.
management, professional services,
Yes.
IT.
Yes.
You also have done quite a lot of work around Indigenous organisations and native title.
Yes, so done a lot of work with Indigenous organisations. So I get a lot of pleasure in helping them win their grants and developing their projects.
And one of the first things I discovered when I spoke to you about this, you said to me, and I said, well, how do you do it? How do you do it? And you said, you don't write until you've done your strategy. Don't, and she emphasises, don't put pen to paper. It was, don't put pen to paper unless you've done that.
Yes.
So you have to do your strategy.
Yes, and because if you don't, if you don't know what your project is or what the evaluation criteria is assessing or how to pull apart the question, it doesn't matter what you write. You could be writing, a non-fiction novel.
Yep, Mills and Boons.
For all the assessors care.
That's right.
Yeah, so you got to do it in reverse.
That's why you said you don't even think about it. You don't even start writing it. You've got to look at the whole thing. Pull it apart.
Yes.
The other thing you said to me was you've got to consider the due date. The longer the lead time,
yes,
the bigger the piece, right?
It's probably an unwritten piece of information, but if it's a short lead time, you can be assured it's going to be a fairly straightforward. But the longer the lead time, this allows for more significant detail that needs to go into the submission.
And it's going to take more time.
More time, yes, and more investment from my direct client. Yeah, but that applies whether they do the bid in-house themselves. They'll be allocating a significant amount of man hours internally in the business.
Because you might need to have conversations with experts like engineers to talk you through a project in order for you to be able to write the information that goes in the bid or tender, because you have to know what you're saying.
Yes, and so sometimes you can work different ways with different size businesses. So some businesses will have their own internal tender team, and so it may just be that they're under-resourced. There may be multiple bids that come through with similar deadlines, so that puts a lot of pressure on the team. So we'll go in and be additional resources. So, when it's technical information, the technical people, you work closely with them, and again, depending on the organisation's experience in tendering, you adapt. So we're back to one of the 7 key.
That's right. One of the 7 adaptability
key features. Yes, right. Adaptability. So you need to be able to adapt your process for each individual client, because their level of knowledge determines how adaptable you need to be.
And when you went through this process with me and you stepped me through it, how you do it, and the don't write till you've done your strategy.
I didn't point my finger.
No, because it was on the phone. But you might have been there. I did a little bit more research. Now, according to a study done by a Canadian consulting firm, they said that effective business writers spend 40% of their time planning, 25% of their time writing, and 35% revising.
I had never probably put it into percentages, but you say that and I would actually agree.
Yeah, because when you said to me, don't write till you've done your strategy, that's the planning part of it.
Yes.
And it's almost half of their time is spent planning before they actually write, 25%. And that made, so when you said that to me and then I started doing more research, I went, well, yeah, there's consulting firms in Canada that say that too. So that is obviously the first thing. And you also shared with me that when you are going through the strategy, it's almost like a business coaching session too.
It is, and we talk about innovation in business, and the tender process and the grant process offers opportunity to businesses to review and about what they do, and if it refine or streamline a process is innovation. So it's a good opportunity to review what you do and take out the excess stuff that doesn't need to be there. And
the upside there is that you can actually make money. You put in the business, they can win a bid, they can win a tender, they can get money as a grant. The better that project is put together and applied, the better the chance of them getting that.
businesses use bidding or tendering for work as a growth strategy because it opens up a new client base.
Yep.
And contract work with government has its security and can diversify your revenue source to protect you against incidents that will affect or can affect revenue, such as COVID,
It could be
example.
COVID. It could be seasonal. Maybe your business has quieter times, so you apply for bids or tenders during those quieter times.
Yes.
Maybe you need to do something innovative, so you apply for a grant because you're not going to. It's money used to change something, not necessarily to fuel another project or flip or pivot. You know, we've got lots of those around. Sometimes those grants are to put on an extra person to increase employment, give a job, or diversify. There's lots of upsides to looking at grants and bids and tenders.
Oh, they are life-changing for businesses. And I think that's very rewarding for me. Like it's, you know, I know that it's not our business that has the direct benefit of winning a tender, but we definitely feel it, and we are as excited as the business who does win the tender. Yeah, you are part of their family.
So ancient wisdom writers.
Yes.
I loved that because I thought, well, you know, you've got decades of experience, decades of wisdom across so many different platforms. And, you know, quality content is a priority. You know what the client wants to say, you know how to say it, you improve strategy in the documents, you improve time efficiency, and you help them win new business. And who doesn't want all those key points hit?
I think that's a win all round.
So if you're out there in YouTube land, you need to subscribe to SMETV so you can hear all about our experts, what they do and how they can improve your business. To the Piedmont Studio, thank you for making us look and sound great. To the SMEA Association, without you, we wouldn't be able to support other SMEs in what they do. If you have any tips, tricks, questions or comments, you can send them straight to me, news@smea.org.au, and we're across all the socials. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Angela.